Hi and welcome to another episode of Design to Live's 30 for 30 Wins Challenge. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that actually I kind of glazed over when we were talking about stuckness, but it is one of the key components to designing a life that you love, and that is forgiveness. So oftentimes when I talk about forgiveness, there comes up a bunch of objections from people who have been wronged, and they often have these misconceptions about what forgiveness is. So today we're going to be covering those topics, what it is, what it isn't, how it actually keeps you stuck, and how to remove yourself from that stuckness and move forward in your life so that you can design a life that you love. So, hello and welcome. My name is Jill Dell. I'm a licensed hypnotherapist. I practice out of the beautiful Seattle area of Washington. Today I am outside in one of my local parks, so forgive me if the wind blows things around and all that kind of stuff. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to maybe go back into the series. Here is a link. It'll take you back to the beginning of all the tips, tools, techniques, mindset and motivation, inspiration, and of course, support that we're sharing during this challenge that I have, which you can find out more about the challenge by looking in the description below. So without further ado, let's get into this forgiveness thing. So this is a quote from a song called The Climb. It was originally put out when Miley Cyrus, I think, was in Hannah, Montana. And it's from her song. And it says, "It ain't about how fast I get there, ain't about what's on the other side. It's the climb." So today, by request, we're going to be talking about the positive benefits of forgiveness. Being willing to give forgiveness, and being willing to receive forgiveness. So I want to start off with talking about an analogy, if you will, or a story. So I used to work in the IT field, and one of the things that we found is that occasionally computers have programs that have updates, and then they when they update, they leave little fragments of the old part of the program behind. Then also computers have memory, random access memory, and so they've got this memory, and when the memory becomes too full, the computer's processing starts to actually become impaired and slow down. So one of the maintenances that we used to do on physical laptops and your regular old desktop type computers was to run diagnostics and then do defragmentation of the hard drive and clear out any excess files that are no longer necessary, and just taking up room throughout this hard drive so that it could operate at a preferred level, like at a better performance level, right? Well, it turns out that the human mind isn't so very different from computers, and we'll talk about why that is in just a second here. So when we get a little more in here, we aren't computers. You're you, I'm me, but we do have a computer. It's our powerful subconscious mind. And our mind is the keeper of all of our memories. It's the keeper of and storage of all of our memories. Now, sometimes those memories have a lot of emotions tied up in them. And sometimes there's multiple emotions with them. And our mind is a beautiful thing, but it can't take in all of the stimulus all at one time, and so it often deletes, distorts, and generalizes information. And this can be helpful for certain things, And at other times, it means that we can have some kind of unwarranted emotions based off of the situation just kind of randomly pop up from things called triggers, right? So something happens, it feels kind of similar to something that happened before, and we get overly emotional about it. So I want, for those of you who haven't ever heard about this movie, it was made in 2015. I believe it was put out by Disney. It's called Inside Out. And it's this little movie about this girl named Riley, and she's moving, and it talks about all of her emotions and all of her memories. And at one point, she's kind of being ran by her negative emotions, and all of her memories are perfectly preserved, except for these old memories that are good, happy memories, and they're kind of disintegrating in this pit. I loved this movie as a hypnotherapist right up until it showed me about those memories that were dissolving in the pit. Then I was like, no! Because you know what? Our subconscious mind never disintegrates the memories. They are all there, perfectly preserved. So other than that little bit of information, I absolutely adored this movie. It was just, I was like, no, don't spread that misinformation because everything's perfectly preserved. The subconscious is in charge of doing that. And it has all the memories intact with all their emotions. They don't disintegrate. They're just no longer recalled off the top of your mind. And especially if there was no big emotional charges on them, right? If it was just a ho-hum day and there's nothing that's really remarkable about that day, then it's just going to kind of be an eventful memory, and it's going to go and be filed away until it becomes relevant or pertinent. However, when you do have that emotional type of event in your past, when a similar emotion presents itself, it triggers it. It kind of lights it up, if you will. And it's lit up somewhere in the mind or in the body. So sometimes you can have this unwarranted amount of emotion for what's actually happening. And it can build up over time. It kind of gets added as more experiences have this emotion. So when we forgive, we release negative emotions that are associated with these memories in a healthy way. So the types of emotions that I'm considering negative are anger, fear, sadness, guilt, and shame. Holding on to too many and too much of these negative emotions in our body and not finding a healthy outlet for that actually leads to many challenges, not just in our thinking and our ability to process. It actually leads to having malfunctions in the body or dis-ease in the body. So perhaps with the anger, you have experienced having a quick temper, or you have anger outbursts, that are just not at an appropriate time, or not geared towards the people that you have the anger about. I mean, it might be towards your pet or your child, and it's like completely unwarranted, but your pet or your child don't seem threatening to you, and so it's a safe place for it to vent, but it's not a healthy place for it to vent, right? So anger can also mean that you get overly excitable, that it can cause troubles communicating at your workplace or with loved ones. It may mean that you're having communication blockages that are actually detrimental to your career. Perhaps you're even experiencing occasional rages where it's really kind of takes a little additional time to rebalance yourself. So what this anger does is holding on to it. It can cause all sorts of challenges if you have unmanaged, unchecked anger. It can cause real physical health problems such as headaches, digestive issues, insomnia, increased anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, skin problems such as eczema, heart issues, and strokes. I mean, there are studies all about this. And, so don't take my word for it. You can go and look it up. You look it up on the Mayo Clinic, look it up in the different studies that have been done. An overabundance of fear. Fear can lead to inability to deal with conflicts that are going on around you, which means that you may procrastinate or have the inability to make decisions or deal with conflict, where you might ignore important or urgent tasks or details. It can cause PTSD if it's unchecked, and it may cause panic attacks, which are very, very real fight or flight responses. Obviously, fear can lead to anxiety disorders and obsessive worries. So fear weakens the immune system. It's physically weakening the immune system. It can cause cardiovascular and digestive issues such as IBS and ulcers. Fear can accelerate aging. It can make you age faster. It can give you migraines. It can turn into fibromyalgia in the body and cause chronic pain and even worsen asthma. So fear isn't something that you want to have unmanaged in your body, right? And then let's talk about the last one that we'll get into in detail, and that is sadness. An abundance or unwarranted amount of sadness in the body that's not managed is linked to inflammatory proteins in the body. So inflammation, and it can contribute to heart disease and stroke, to some types of cardiovascular disease, achy joints, weight gain, because it often comes with low blood sugar, and so then you make maybe unwise food choices, so you have weight gain, hypertension, and can lead to heart disease. Obviously, it's blood pressure, sugar levels. It can affect your sleep, and basically, it's just all of this other. There's just not a lot of positive benefits over having too much sadness that's in your body. So, guilt and shame. I'm just going to briefly touch on these. Okay, guilt and shame. To me, I truly believe and was taught that these are worthless emotions to have. They're just a form of self-punishment, and they really do fall into that secondary gain category that keeps you stuck. It may be that you feel unworthy of having the things in your life, or that you feel like you deserve to have punishment. But guilt and shame are just two emotions that wreak havoc in the body. So what this all boils down to is that our thoughts are things. They are charged with energy. And so when you're having these negative thoughts and an abundance in your body, you're actually beginning to experience at an energetic level these things manifesting in the body. So I want, just as an example of this, I want you to think about somebody who has hurt you pretty bad in the past, okay? Remember, you're safe, you're just imagining this, but I want you to think about somebody who has really hurt you in the past. And now I want you to imagine that, it's just a day like today. You were out driving down a local street. You're not going overly fast. You're going about 15 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, a leisurely drive. You got your windows rolled down. And you happen to look over and you see that particular person talking to someone that you don't know on the street. Okay? As you imagine this, can you see what this person is wearing? Can you see their body movements? If they're walking on the sidewalk, can you see how they're walking? Can you, as you slow down your car, you begin to hear some of their conversation? Can you hear the tonality and timbre of their voice? Can you hear any of their vocal inflections? If they're laughing, can you hear that? So how does that make you feel? What emotions are you feeling as you imagine this? Guess what? None of that's real. None of it. That is not that person. It's not that person. It may look, sound, and feel like them, but that is an image that you created in your subconscious mind of them, or internal representation of that person. And it's taking up valuable resources, valuable space inside of your mind, and it's giving them control that honestly they don't deserve. So I want you to think about it. If you felt any discomfort during this exercise, your brain created that. That means that this person that has hurt you, you've given them some power and control over you. That's the opposite of empowerment. That's why forgiveness is so powerful. It's time to let this stuff go. And I know this flies in the face of some of the things that you may have heard. You might say, oh no, why would I want that person back in my life? Why would I forgive them? Well, that's one of a few common misconceptions about forgiveness. Because don't get me wrong, no, forgiveness does not mean that we have to re-engage in that relationship with that person. Forgiveness doesn't mean that this person now gets a get out of jail free card and you pick up that relationship right where it ended. No. This doesn't give them liberty to walk all over your healthy boundaries again. No. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is not even really letting, someone back into your life. It isn't even about them. Forgiveness is more that you now have a choice in that relationship. And so you can forgive and not forget. I mean, their actions have real consequences, and that's fine. That's a healthy boundary to have. And you can decide what is appropriate for whatever it is that you are forgiving for. It doesn't mean that you can let somebody trample all over your feelings again or give them opportunity to hurt you again. It's about freeing that space inside of you, freeing it back up and making it expansive so that you can put in better, more supportive energy than that negative crap, right? It's just not about them or what they want. It is truly about healing you and you getting that empowerment back. So what if this person has done horrible, despicable, evil things, right? Like is in the case for a lot of people who have suffered domestic violence or verbal or sexual abuse, right? It's not reconciliation with them, okay? It's acknowledging that bad things can happen to good people, but those good people don't have to be wounded throughout the rest of their life because that happened. In fact, all behavior is learned, and this is a tough one for some people, but as a practitioner, I 100% believe this. All of our behavior is learned. So if somebody has done horrible, evil, despicable things to you, chances are they learned that firsthand, and they're just continuing on in a cycle of that type of horrible behavior. Breaking the cycles of domestic violence or abuse, physical or emotional, is incredibly brave. And you being here and still listening to this means that you are brave and are ready to begin that healing process. This is difficult soul work. It's deep emotional work, but you are worthy. You are 100% worthy of doing this work. What if you don't feel like you're 100% worthy of this forgiveness? What if it's you that needs the forgiveness for some behaviors or some things that you've done that you can't forgive yourself for? Well, I want you to just try this for just a moment, okay? I want you to realize, first of all, that in any moment in time, you're at that time dealing with what you have when you had it with the best of resources that you had. And so sometimes that means that we have pretty significantly bad judgment, and we've had some pretty significantly unsupportive and negative behaviors that may have trampled over other people's boundaries. But what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think of someone that you love unconditionally. This may be your child. This may be a niece or a nephew. It may be your dog. It may be a grandparent figure. It may be an aunt or an uncle that you really had a close bond with, but somebody that you would do anything for, okay? If this person admitted to you that in the past, when they were younger, they made this mistake, would you love them less? Or would you seek to understand maybe what they went through and encourage them on their healing journey? Right? I'd like to think that you would still love them. You may be troubled by what they've shared with you, but that doesn't mean that they've done that hurt to you. They've done it to that person and themselves. And more than likely, you would encourage them to get help. You see, you deserve to let go of guilt and shame. They just keep you in that stuckness instead of moving you forward on your healing journey. And again, like I said, all behaviors, good ones and maybe not such good ones, are learned behaviors. So this isn't a free pass now. I want to just say this. This is not a free pass to then go out and continue hurting people or yourself and then saying, oh, but I deserve forgiveness. No, that's not how it works. No, If you're going to do that, then you're not ready to forgive. Right? This is about really letting it go, letting the past go, and stepping into the empowerment and making new supportive choices that help you and help others, that are good for you and good for all those people that come in contact with you. All right? So remember, one doesn't have, to re-engage with somebody after they forgive them. They don't have to return to an old relationship. They don't have to return to old paradigms, and they certainly don't need to repeat that process anymore, right? Some harmful behaviors, really are frightening. We wouldn't want to put ourselves or anybody that we love in those predicaments. And so forgiveness is not about doing any of that, okay? So let's move on into what it is. Forgiveness is what allows you to regain that power of your emotions. Forgiveness is a great way to release any emotions that are overflowing and to balance them out. It's a way to move forward from being a victim and having a victim type of mentality or scarcity mindset to actually having an empowering mindset that is supportive of you and supportive of healthy boundaries. So let's move on into a visualization that I prepared for this audio. I know this is a very long video, but it is going to be so worth it, and you are worth the time vested to be here today. I am actually so proud of you for doing this. Not everyone is ready to take these steps, but the fact that you're still here means that you are, okay? So I want to move into a visualization that I've created for us today to move towards forgiveness and to embrace all it has to offer us and reclaim that space and freedom in our bodies and our minds.